Hey, good morning, my Asphalt Life community. So excited to have you guys on this July, end of July slash August webinar. Super excited to have you. And look, I'm on camera. Hey, what's up? I'm on camera today, so you can actually see me. Hey, what's up? Last month we did a webinar on camera as well, and we had Mike Holmes Jr. joined us. And this month, I'm so excited. We're joined by our partners at NRCA. We got Jared and Amy on. Hey, guys.
Hey.
Yeah, so we got some good stuff to talk about. You guys who are in there hitting the pavement, making presentations every day to your audience, which is homeowners, other salespeople, or you're training other people within your staff, it's so important that you take a minute to get expertise and next steps on perfecting your craft when you're presenting. And so today is all about training you, right? Making sure that your game is on point, that you can communicate your goals clearly and effectively to whatever type of audience you're coming in contact with. So I'm super excited to have you guys on, Amy and Jared. And so if you're on and you can hear me, go ahead and put something in the chat. Tell me good morning. Let me know where you're from. If it's your first time on a webinar, welcome. Uh, so what's up? Hey, Laura. Hey, Charlie, Anthony. Good morning from Houston. Hey, Jeremy. So the Asphalt Life community, our Atlas Pro contractors are logging in, and so is a lot of our sales team. You know, it's always important whether you're internally or external in a company to make sure that you are perfecting your craft, making sure that you're doing best practices and that you're able to have that training time and professional development. So I'm really excited for all of you guys who have jumped on so far. Um, Good morning, Brandon, and happy birthday to you tomorrow. I know it's your birthday coming up. What's up, Nick? Hey, Tony, Stephanie, Sean. Yes, you guys are coming in, and I am so excited. I think that these webinars have been really fun, not only to host for you guys, but to really see that our contractors are finding value in them, and that's really why we do them. One of the ways you can tell us how we're doing and what your feedback is, or if you have a topic that you feel like listen, Tiara, you are missing the boat. You haven't done a webinar on this yet. Listen, let me know. Let me know how I'm missing the boat. Let us know what we need to do and what topics you'd like to hear. I just put in the chat a link to our Atlas webinars URL. Right in there, you're going to find that we have a survey, and it's your opportunity to give us that feedback that we're always looking for. So as we go through this webinar towards the end of it, take a second and give us that feedback on what you thought of the webinar, how much you love Jared and Amy, and let us know if you're interested in actually attending one of these events that NRCA hosts, as well as you can scroll down to the bottom and tell me anything you want me to know. So Tiara, you talk too much. Tiara, I love when you talk. All of those things are totally welcome. So super excited to get that feedback from you all. Be sure that you are taking advantage of that. If it is your first time on our webinar, like I said earlier, welcome. So excited to have you guys on. And listen, we like to be engaged. We like to hear from you, hear your comments, hear your feedback throughout. So don't hesitate. Pop something in the chat bar. If you are on a tablet or an iPhone, you should see a little heart icon on the bottom right of your screen. Give us a heart. What I always say is if you like what you hear, heart us. And if you don't like what you hear, heart us some more. So let us know what you think. Let us know your opinion. And we definitely want and welcome feedback. That's one of the things that I believe sets Atlas apart, is that we want to hear what your thoughts are on the webinars and any other content resources that we're putting out there. So super excited today to talk about this topic. Let's get into some announcements really briefly. Contractors, if you have not signed up for the Roof It Right sweepstakes, you are missing it. Make sure that you go to atlasroofing.com/pro. And I'll go ahead and put that in the chat bar, but we are running a sweepstakes right now for an opportunity for our contractors to meet Mike Holmes. It's an all expense paid trip to Toronto, Canada at the end of this year. And we're going to announce 5 finalists for them and a guest, so 10 in all, to be able to take advantage of this sweepstakes. Click that link in the chat bar. And here's the thing, in order to be entered into a sweepstakes, you have to enroll. So there are buttons everywhere on this link that I just sent you that says join now, enroll now. Be sure you click that, log into your pro account. There's banner ads there. Listen, we're doing a drawing on the 30th of this month. So in 2 days, or tomorrow's the 30th. So tomorrow we'll be doing a drawing to actually identify 10 people to win these prizes. This swag up top, yep, that Apple Watch, the Yeti cooler, our cool swag hats. Be sure you enter now because that automatically enters you for an opportunity to win some of this swag, and we'll be announcing the winners on social. Your sales rep will be able to bring you this cornhole bowl, or even a life-size stand-up of Mike Holmes himself. Like bring Mike to your job sites, have him hugging on your homeowners, and make it a lot of fun. But listen, make sure that you are entered into this sweepstakes because it's a great opportunity for you to engage with Atlas, install your Atlas Pro jobs, and at the end of this, these 5 finalists are actually going to have an opportunity to get with Mike Holmes and film a 30-second promotional spot about how you're making it right in your community and with your business. So think about the brand opportunity that's in there with having the opportunity to talk with Mike Holmes and actually have a professional recorded spot that you can then take back and utilize in your marketing efforts for 2020. So listen, make sure you're taking advantage of that. I'm super psyched, super excited about the upcoming sweepstakes and the drawing on tomorrow. So be sure you're taking advantage of that. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat bar and let me know. So let's get into the content for today. First of all, I want to introduce Amy. Amy has been with NRCA since 2011. She's worked in a lot of different capacities within NRCA, and she started her work back in health and safety with one of her first projects to author NRCA's first safety manual and toolbox talks. Amy is responsible now for all of NRCA's training and the university operations. So basically, if you guys have not checked out their webinars, be sure that you do that. Amy is on all of those, giving some great information about best practices. She is a technical resource that I would definitely rely on. I've actually listened to some of your webinars, Amy, and I really enjoyed them. So make sure that you guys are checking that out and really utilizing these resources that are free that companies like Atlas or companies like NRCA is putting out every month. So thanks for doing that, Amy.
Oh, thanks.
So Jared, let's talk about you for a little bit.
Please.
Yes.
Love talking about me.
Well, Jared's an extensive speaker. He's out of Nashville, which if you haven't been to Nashville, you need to put it on your list for a trip. He's joined NRCA as an ambassador of the Revolutionary Roofer Certification Program. And so Atlas is proud to be partnering with NRCA on their programs because we believe that, in order to be a good manufacturer, you got to have a good industry-wide standing. And NRCA really provides top of the line certification programs, knowledge-based tech tools, resources for a contractor to be able to really establish himself as a professional in his market. And it's an industry-wide issue. Of course, all of us are dealing in some way, one way or another, with labor shortage. And so being in a place where you can sign up for NRCA, becoming a member of NRCA is really what Atlas wants to push this month, coming up in August. And so you'll see a lot of stuff coming out from us in August about partnering with NRCA and becoming a pro certified member to really establish your business. So be sure you're taking advantage of that. And then additionally, Jared's bringing 20 years of concert performance and management experience to the NRCA University, supporting their qualified trainer conferences. He has 2 kids, and I know that you're a musician playing drums, right, Jared?
Yep, that's my background. 20 years of doing that professionally. So
Yeah, that's great. Well, you definitely been in the spotlight, and so we're excited to hear from both of you all on best practices for really taking advantage of our training capabilities. So, without further ado, Amy, let's go into this schedule. First of all, we're going to hit on 4 things, kind of going really in depth on these, knowing your audience. How important is that? Understanding who you're talking to, thinking about how you present, like what portions of your physical or voice texture do you give energy out or do you zap energy when you're presenting? Asking the right questions, right? There's open-ended and we all heard about closed-ended questions. So how important is asking the right questions and then helping people to remember, right? This, at the end of the day, we are in sales. We are in the business of selling shingles, which isn't the most sexiest product. So how do you really help a consumer, a homeowner, or even your sales team to really remember and retain the information you presented? So this is going to be a power packed hour, and I won't take all the time talking because I feel like that's what I've done so far for 10 whole minutes. So, Amy, it's all yours.
All right. Well, I will definitely take it away for about half our time, and then I'll pass it over to Jared. And so, like Tiara said, the first thing that we're going to talk about is knowing your audience. So what you guys do really is all about people, right? I mean, of course, you're selling shingles, but you're selling shingles to people. So whether you're out there pounding the pavement or you're training other people to do that, how you interact with people and how you train other people to interact with people is going to have everything to do with your success as a roofing contractor or from a manufacturer's perspective. So we're going to spend a little time talking about what it means to interact with people and understanding how we all kind of come to the world, and that everybody comes to the world a little different way. Like, we're all wearing different glasses. If you guys have ever done the DISC profile, then you might not find a lot of surprise in what we're going to talk about, because really I'm going to base the next few minutes off of the categories provided to us by the DISC profile. I'll describe these. If at some point later on you want to like take the assessment yourself and find out a little bit about yourself, you can find a bunch of these things free online. But it's my intent to describe these 4 personality types to you in the next few minutes, and then I'm actually going to post a poll and ask which one you identify with. So as we go through this, pay attention and be thinking about, is this me? So 4 different types, because as we all know, there are only 4 different types of people in this whole wide world, right? Of course, that's not true, but for argument's sake and just to create some common language, we're going to go ahead and pretend for a few minutes as though there are. So you'll see these pictures of these folks that I have here. Each one represents a different type of person that we're going to talk about today. So our first gentleman there on the left is what we're going to call dominant. Then we're going to talk a little bit about influential people, steady folks, and then finally those who identify as conscientious, or another way I tend to think of conscientious is like a perfectionist. So we're just going to jump in and look at our dominant person first. So you can see here some of the characteristics that are associated, and I know these can be a little stereotypical, and obviously in real human beings they're very nuanced, but in general, when you look down this list, you see characteristics such as someone who's intense, who is actually opinionated is not necessarily the best way to say it, because we all have opinions, but we'll say the dominant person is generally very free to express his or her opinions. This I put my way in quotation marks because the rest of the phrase there, as we all know, is or the highway. So these are my way or the highway type people. They want to be in control. They're very active, task-oriented. Like, when it comes to, is your orientation primarily to people or primarily to task, our dominant folks tend to move toward the side of accomplishment, achievement, and task orientation. Production is huge for somebody who identifies as dominant. They take a lot of risks. They're very assertive. They make decisions quickly. We could go on and on with lists that identify each one of these characteristics, and we could add a lot more to the dominant personality also. But I think you can see a little bit of what we're talking about here. So just be thinking about whether you think you are this dominant person. And we're going to move on to talk a little bit about the influential character. So this is our influential person, and I think, you know, the picture says it all. This is a live life to the fullest, love to be engaged in things, but primarily love to be engaged with people. So if you've ever said of yourself or somebody else, you know, I'm a people person, you know, she's a people person, generally they would probably fall under the characteristic of being influential. So fun-loving, people-oriented, that people orientation. So like we said before with our dominant person, if you're focused primarily on people or on task, and our dominant person was more of a task orientation, our influential person is people all the way. Likes to build rapport, engaging, persuasive. They like to talk a lot, right? They like to convince people of things using their words. They enjoy conversation. They love a spotlight. They want to be liked, and they enjoy other people. In fact, a lot of people on this webinar right now might fall into this category because as somebody who is attracted to sales, by your very nature, you're trying to convince people of things, to persuade them to buy your product or your service. So many of you might identify as influential. So we've done dominant, we've done influential, and we're going to move now to steady. A steady person is team-oriented, always seeks the best for the team, wants to work with a group and accomplish things together. Seeking harmony is really a big deal for a steady person, and by that, you know, like agreeableness. And of course, we all know there's false harmony and there's true harmony, right? I mean, somebody who's a little less resourced is going to seek to maintain the peace even if it's not real. But somebody who's a little more resourced in this steadiness factor is going to be pretty good at resolving conflict, you know, wanting to smooth things over. I mean, not just smooth things over as in sweeping it under the rug, but actually deal with things head on. But they're super reliable, stable, go with the flow, very calm, not very easily ruffled at all. Unlike the dominant person, a steady person needs time to make decisions because they want to seek agreement with people. So if you're out there trying to sell to someone who's dominant, you may present a case and that person may be ready to sign on the bottom of the line. Whereas if you're presenting to somebody who's steady, they're going to want to take some time to think about it. They're going to want to go back and interact with their family or their coworkers, depending on, you know, what the building type is, and they're going to want to seek agreement from people. Okay, so then our final type is what we call conscientious. This is someone who is by the book, precise, analytical, the other things that you can read here, this detail orientation, a desire to see the numbers. By data-driven decision maker, this is going to be somebody who's going to want to see the details. What's your timeline? You know, what's the budget? What are we talking here? What's the chance that we're going to have overruns? You know, what sorts of experiences do other people have? As much data as this person can have, they're going to be happy, happy, happy.
Yeah.
Right? You'll see this task orientation here for our conscientious person also. So we had our dominant person and our conscientious person more focused on task than people. And then our steady person and our influential person more naturally focused on people than task.
So Amy, within this context, this is great. What a lot of us probably find ourselves in multiple categories. Is that appropriate, or how does that work within this?
Yes, that's a great question. And in fact, generally speaking, when I talk about this topic, I'll like take a flip chart and I'll draw it in a circle, like the D, I, S, and C, because it's easy to see that circle. So generally speaking, whichever one you identify with primarily, you tend to have secondary characteristics with either of the ones next to you. So if you identify primarily as dominant, then your secondary characteristic probably is either influential or conscientious. So you could be a dominant person very driven by being precise and analytical, in which case you're probably very hard charging, very accurate, very active, probably drawn to a job that involves lots of detail and precision. Whereas if you're dominant and influential is your secondary characteristic, you're probably very much more drawn to careers that require you to be out there, but which are very social in nature. So that's where we're going to get more of our politicians, for instance, and maybe those of you on the webinar who are in sales, but identify a little more with that dominant type, you probably have an influential characteristic as secondary. You can kind of go around the circle that way and see how those balance out. And ironically, also, typically, you tend to look across the circle as someone who's very different from you and see them a little more in terms of their negative characteristics and their positive ones. The kind of human nature to be.
So those personalities, they clash a lot of times. You know, if you're
Yes,
selling to somebody and it's automatically like, you know, tense, that could be completely the other side.
absolutely. So think of somebody right now who makes you bonkers, and just take 1 second and give them the benefit of the doubt and say,
Yeah.
huh, I wonder if they're just coming at the world from a very different perspective than I am, and if that, you know, there's some legitimacy there.
Yeah.
So now that you've had a few minutes to think about it, I am actually going to launch this poll, and I want to see if you can tell us which style you identify with. So it'd be fascinating to know the folks who are listening.
Go ahead and vote
today.
on your screen now, guys, and pop in what you see. The results are coming in. It looks like a lot of influential people out there.
Yep, which again shouldn't be surprising to us given who we have on this call today, right? It's primarily folks who are in sales or people who train salespeople, and so even trainers are going to tend to be more on that influential scale.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Awesome.
4 seconds, and I'll close it out. All right, so I just closed it out, and what we have here is a little less than 20% of folks entering in as dominant, only 6% is conscientious, so that's very low. So we don't have a lot of people who are too hooked up on details out there, which I just have to say from my own personal perspective, love you guys, don't have a lot of detail orientation in me either. So a good 50%.
I'm definitely coming in influential. I'm not in dominant probably.
Tiara, I'm just going to guess that you probably go in that influential category just based on how you opened up the webinar today.
Well, yeah, I definitely resonated with influential stuff.
Yeah. So super fun. Thank you everybody for weighing in. And what I want to do now is I want to talk to you a little bit about how our industry weighs in. So I have actually interacted with a lot of roofing professionals. My primary audience tends to be foremen and superintendents, but also interact with a lot of like directors of operations up through company owners. So, but primarily on the production side. So I don't think these numbers will surprise you when I share this. And this is, in my experience, this is how the roofing industry, again, production-oriented side of the industry, tends to come out.
Yeah.
So we have like 80% of those who are professionals in the industry focused on production are very high in dominant and very high in conscientious, right? So that production orientation, obviously, the orientation towards perfection, right? Because we all have a little bit of problem happening with our roofs if they're not installed perfectly. So not a surprise at all. And obviously, if you have 80% there and you only have 20% left, they get doled out in the middle. I talk a lot to roofing companies about sort of the unfortunate nature of this, in that we kind of are, we have a tendency industry-wide to push people out of the industry who are more people-oriented. And I think that that results in some interesting dilemmas for us when it comes to interacting with our customers and even encouraging retention at our own companies and interacting with people. But another interesting statistic that I think you'll like to see is this, and this actually jives very well with those folks who are on the webinar, but is a little troubling for the industry. So if you're on this webinar as a contractor or someone who works in a roofing company who's going out to the population, it's really important to know that the people inside your company are really not representative of our general population as a whole, right? So where we have 80% of people inside of roofing companies representing dominance and conscientiousness, we have 70% of the population of our country being more influential and steady. So they're more people oriented, whereas the people who work in the roofing companies are more task oriented. And so those of you that are in that sales sales arena, now if you came to the company from outside the industry and were hired specifically because of your sales capability, you probably fit very well with these numbers as we see in our poll. I think our poll is very representative of the US population. But
Yeah.
if you come up through the industry, you know, if you start at your roofing company in a production oriented job, you're probably more naturally focused on the task of roofing. So it just creates some interesting, maybe some natural disconnects, but some potential for growth and opportunity when it comes to training people to interact with folks outside. So what I want to do next is I actually want to look at a couple of scenarios, right? So what are our potential problems if a roofing, I just said roofing contractor, but that could mean anybody at the company. It could be the owner because he or she is doing a lot of the sales, or it could be a salesperson, or it could be a superintendent or project manager, whoever is interfacing with the potential customer. So what we have here is a customer who identifies as influential, right? So he's out for a good time, and a roofing contractor who identifies as conscientious. So some of the potential problems that I've identified, and I'm sure that you could think of some more, are that you have a customer here who wants to chat, and a roofing contractor, not so much. For the customer, rapport is key, but for the contractor, information is key. And then the specific details of the sale in the moment are probably not going to seal the deal for the customer, whereas that's where the contractor is really focused on convincing somebody that their product is or their service is worth buying. So I think, I mean, and obviously this is a little oversimplistic, but some of the potential solutions here are, you got to chat anyway. So you got to teach people who are going to be interfacing with customers that the small talk is actually important. And it doesn't all have to be small talk. It can be deep talk. In fact, developing actual rapport requires some time. And there are a lot of people out there who are going to identify as conscientious or dominant that aren't necessarily going to find that to be of value for themselves, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. One of the things I hear a lot with salespeople when they're going into a home is, well, you know, they only expect you to be there for 15 or 20 minutes and go on up in the roof and give me an estimate, and they have to go. But I think, you know, a lot of times is the homeowner will make time for you when they feel like you're adding value. And so it is that time spent, that marrying of those two that help to build rapport, build trust, and then give you the time you need to really sell yourself in the home. So
Right.
I think that's really key. That's a great point.
And contributing value is an important point, Tiara, because like I identify as a steady person that tends to be more people oriented. But if I feel like you're just blowing smoke to get me to like you, I don't want that either, right? It needs to be genuine. And here's another one I thought was interesting, because we tend to think of interacting with people like we're going to have our problems when we're interacting with people who are very different from us. But actually, interacting with people who are very similar to us can create some unique situations too. So here we have two dominant people, and a few potential problems is that they are both going to have a tendency to power up. They want things their way, and they want to be in control. So what can you do about that if that is your natural tendency? You know, you don't want to end up in a fight with your potential customer, right? So,
Or internally, you know, we see this a lot inside roofing companies, right? Two dominant people.
oh yeah, yes. So this is all about being who you are. Like never would I suggest that you try to be someone less than you are, or you know, put yourself underneath another person. But it's just about meeting them on an equal plane. You know, so it's being solid, because that's what a dominant person is. But you have to be willing to listen. You do, like, put out good questions and actually listen. You know, someone who's dominant doesn't really want to waste time with small talk, but let the other person guide the conversation. You know, if they want to chit chat and have a good time, they're going to do that. If they're going to want to cut to the chase, then they're going to do that. So it's just fun actually to think about. And like I said, you can go online and find any number of profiles like this, or if you are in an organization where you think it'd be worth delving into this more, you can purchase disc profiles from various sources and actually spend some time doing that. In fact, NRCA, we do programs like that for companies, for foremen, and for senior leaders and managers as well.
Yeah. And we put a preliminary DISC assessment in the chat. So some homework for you all that are on the call. Take a second, get with your team. If you're over sales and training, have your sales guys during a staff meeting complete the 5-minute DISC training, and so they at least can identify where in these buckets they fit. I think what you'll find is it'll open up not only your eyes on how to communicate with them, but their eyes on what type of person they are and what they need.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to jump off of that and move into something that's very related, and that is thinking about how you present, like how you as your whole entire person kind of presents yourself. Like when you think of yourself, you know that there's a lot going on inside you, right? Like you've got your opinions and your thoughts and your spirit and your drive and all of that. But the way that people see that is just by what you put out to the world. So we're going to talk a few minutes about 3 major areas that you put out to the world. And that's these. This is the message is the words that you speak out into the world. Your voice is, of course, what carries the message, but it's sort of what you do with your voice, the characteristics of your voice. And then finally, your physical impression. And that's what people see of you, right? I mean, it's everything you got. Like, every day you just have those 3 things that you're going to put out to the world. And it is by those things that people will not only judge you, but also the content of your message.
So people judge the ribbed shirt and the holy jeans, maybe?
Yeah, yes, right? You're sending a message. And you might be sending the message that you're up on the roof working hard and that's just what you're wearing.
Right.
But people should know that.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably not the majority of people on this call right now, right? Because they're actually out on the roof right now while we're in the air conditioning.
That's right.
Yeah. So on this next slide, I'm gonna ask you to use your chat, and maybe Tiara, you can tell us what people are saying.
Yeah, for sure.
This is the setup. You see this guy. He was our dominant guy from before, and we've got 4 different facial expressions. And I'm gonna put in this box a question. So in each case, this question is going to be the only words that are going to be, and he's not actually going to speak. All you have is physical impression here. So what I'm going to ask you to do, starting with the guy on the top left, so the guy in the polo shirt. So here's our question. The question that he's asking, so these are the words that he is saying. How can I help you? But look at his physical impression, and what I want you to enter into chat for Tiara to share with all of us is, what does he mean? So he's asking, how can I help you? And what are you discerning if he's asking you that question and using his physical impression with you? What do you think he's really saying?
Yeah. So we're already getting responses. Thank you guys for you all that are putting stuff in there. Solomita says, I don't want to help you. Andy says, hurry up. Reginald says, he's saying, why are you here?
Yeah.
And Charlie says he looks really annoyed. So, there's all of those things that we're kind of getting from him.
Yes. So what I have up here that he's saying is, what? Like,
Yeah.
Like he's asking how he can help you, but you have like zero confidence that he even knows what you're talking about. Like, what do you want? What do you want from me?
In between confused and hurry. Like,
Right.
I'm with Andy. Andy's like, hurry up and tell me what you want.
Yes. So actually, I'm going to give you the next one too, because some of you are already weighing in on if you look at our top right guy. So he's just staring at you. He's also saying, "How can I help you?" But this is what I think he's saying when I look at it. It's like, aren't you ever happy? Like, how can I help you now? I mean, he didn't put the now on there, but you can hear it, can't you?
Yeah.
Like, you can hear it even though he's not saying it. And that's what I'm saying is like you are adding to your message all the time by how you look. And then the one on the bottom left there, sort of similar actually to the top one. But this is what I thought he was saying. Like he's asking how he can help, and he's like, really? Are you actually serious? I mean, does it hurt to be that stupid? Like, you are just getting from this guy. He wants nothing to do with you.
Ah, funny.
Yeah. But what about our last guy? I mean, what do you think he's asking? How would you phrase what you think he really means when he says, "How can I
Yeah,
help you?"
drop that into the chat, you guys. What is he saying on the bottom? Yeah, ready to help.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What can I do to make you
Make your
happy?
life
How can I
better.
serve you? Yeah.
Yes. Like you can see that like we don't have this person's tone of voice at all. And pretty much like in the scenario, like his clothing is not a whole lot different, right? Like his head is tilted the same way, and almost all of them, it's his eyes. In the last picture, even like his eyebrow is lifted up a little. He's smiling. Like he looks like he wants to engage with you.
Mhm.
And so many of us do not stop and consider how important this is. And I'm actually going to ask. I'm going to ask you for. I'm going to give you another poll, and I'm going to ask what you think. So look at these three categories. This is what I said is what you have: message, voice, and physical impression. We're going to make this one a quick poll to tell all of us which one of these you think is most important. Now, of course, I mean, I guess our presentation to this point is a little bit of a setup, but
Yeah.
not always. I mean, because there's a case to be made for all of them. You know, I have really good
Oh, for
conversations
sure.
about this. And while you're weighing in on this, let me just say, I'm going to share some percentages with you. Don't take the percentages to the bank, right? You're not going to get a loan with this. It was one study done almost a half a century ago by a professor at UCLA, and it's interesting, but the numbers themselves I wouldn't worry about. Okay, so I'm gonna close the poll.
Yep, I just shared the results.
Okay, good.
It's like 72% hit it in the head with physical impression, and then voice and message were the next two.
Yeah, and so voice is really important. And a lot of times if we're just on the phone, like if we weren't sharing our webcams today even, that would be all that we have, the words and the voice. So then the voice takes over. But in general, these are the numbers that are a result of that one study that I told you about. And even though I don't know about these precise numbers, I think it's important to realize that the percentages are so different that we're not even talking about the exact numbers here. We're talking about the fact that how you interact with the world, how you interact with another human being, what you put on your face, the kinds of gestures you use, your posture, and to Tiara's earlier point about the t-shirt and ripped jeans, your attire makes a huge difference. But after that, your voice is massive. And then the message, the 7% is not meant to imply that the words aren't important. They are hugely important. But the idea here is that you're going out and you're selling shingles, and you're not lying about the shingles, right? Like, I believe I can trust you. And it's just like, do I want to do business with you kind of thing, right? Okay. So if there aren't any other comments about that, or even if there are, while there are, I am actually going to turn over control of the screen to Jared, who's going to give us another couple of points here.
Yeah, Amy, great stuff, and thanks for taking the time to share that with us. Just to continue the discussion of how we can be better presenters, how we can present ourselves better when we're training, how we can present ourselves better on a sales call. I'm really fortunate I get to greet my son when he gets off the bus every day from school. And of course, as we're walking home from the bus stop, the question I ask him every day is, "How was your day at school today, son?" To which he says, "Good." Yeah. Do you mind expanding a little bit more on this answer? Because
Right.
I've kind of missed you all day. I really would love to know what's going on with your day. And all I get is good. okay, well, he's a boy, he's 8, whatever, but maybe at some point I got to step back and say, am I asking a good question? Is the question I'm asking really eliciting the types of responses I'm trying to get? See, as trainers, I know we've got some trainers on the call. As trainers, the types of questions that you ask really can make a huge difference in how much your student, your trainee, is retaining. But we've got salespeople on the call as well, and when you're walking up to a homeowner or a building owner, naturally there's going to be possibly a disposition of guarded. They've got their arms crossed and not quite sure what angle you're coming from and how much money are you going to cost me. So if we can learn to ask the right types of questions to engage that person, to help disarm them, to help relax them, to help make them comfortable with you and trust you, the questions we ask are really, really important. So let's see, how was your day at school today? Good. What kind of question is that? That's a closed-ended question. It receives a one-word answer. Closed-ended questions are typically like yes or no kind of questions, or they get a yes or no answer. And while we can't ever eliminate these totally, we can do better. But I want to play a little game with Amy here real quick. I'm going to put her on the spot that just kind of illustrates the closed-ended question and how it can be ineffective. Okay, so I'm going to think of something in Amy's kitchen. Now, actually, I've never been inside, but I'm going to trust that if she has any type of normal kitchen, it's going to have this thing in it, and she can only ask me yes or no questions to try to figure out what item in her kitchen I'm thinking of. Okay, and we're going to count
Jared,
together.
should our listeners put in the chat what they think it should be?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not set up to be able to see it, so you're gonna have to help me with that, Tiara. But
help Amy. She needs a line.
I need
Drop
help.
Amy a line.
yeah, if Amy needs a line, because we're not gonna let this drag on too long. But let's just see if she can figure out what I'm thinking of in her kitchen by just asking yes or no questions. Go for it, Amy.
Is it an appliance?
No.
Does it plug in?
No, not to electricity.
Not
I kind of helped her out there, but anyway, no.
Maybe I'm not that clever, so people feel free to chat.
Yeah.
And Tiara, you can ask questions too.
Yeah, or
Does it have a cork?
A cork?
Yeah.
No, it does not have a cork.
Well, does it have a cord? Which
A cord does not have a cord.
doesn't plug into electricity. Does it?
Is it a,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Amy.
Does it deliver water?
Yes.
Is it a faucet?
Yes. Okay. So that
Charlie guessed it. Shout out to Charlie Waldrop.
Yeah. Okay.
All right,
so
Charlie.
That took 6 questions to get to that simple thing I was thinking of.
I think that was pretty good.
Yeah, actually, no. I mean, hey, we do this. We have this train the trainer conference called the Qualified Trainer Conference that Amy and I do, and it can often take 15 to 20 questions just to get to the answer. So anyway, so how was your day at school today? Good. That's a closed-ended question. What could be a better question? What did you do at recess today? And my son would then respond, well, I played on the monkey bars, then we played tag, then Billy pushed me, and then I kicked him in his face, and then I went to the principal's office. I mean, it elicited at least a response that generated a conversation. Okay,
Yeah.
So much better question. So when you're in a training environment, maybe one of your questions is, do you use an 1.5-inch nail for this shingle? Yes or no. That's not a great question. A better question would be, why do you use an 1.5-inch nail for this product? And it opens up the trainee's mind to think about the reasoning. It forces them to reason. And it's not about actually the 1.5 nail. It's about why the 1.5 nail is so important. So we ask open-ended questions. Open-ended questions receive a response that creates some dialogue. It creates definition. Okay. So Amy, let's do the same exercise. But I'm going to let you ask open-ended questions. So I'm thinking of something in your kitchen. I'm assuming it's in your kitchen. So now you can ask descriptive questions that force, open-ended questions.
Mm-hmm.
What's the purpose of this thing?
To cook bread, toast, bagels, English muffins.
Is it a toaster?
Yes. Wow. Took 2 questions to get there. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So you can see, I mean, it's kind of a fun little exercise that we do, but you can see how much better, how much further we can get with questions versus closed-ended questions. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk more about salespeople. So we're talking about, disarming and letting the guard down, getting your customer to let their guard down a little bit. So a common question, we all do it at parties. We're all curious people. What do you do for a living?
Yeah.
Got to be honest with you. I really, really dislike, to the point of hate, this question. See, as Tiara mentioned, I was a professional musician for 20 years, living in Nashville, Tennessee. Okay. And so I'd have a sales guy come, and I remember 2 or 3 specifically. One was a deck salesman. I was trying to get a new deck for the house. I was trying to get a new floor for my house. And within minutes, they're saying, what do you do for a living? And I'm thinking, crap. I got to tell them I'm a professional musician. I'm not embarrassed about that, but a professional musician in Nashville means I'm out touring. That means I'm gone from my house. I have a wife and kids at home that I'm leaving at home. Now, all of a sudden, if I tell you what I do, I'm starting to feel unsafe. Not to mention the fact that I have thousands of dollars of equipment in my house because I'm a musician. So now I'm gone from my house all the time. I got a sales guy that I don't know at all who's asking me what I do. And it just creates an unsafe environment for me instantly. Now, you can say, well, Jared, you're a specialized person, but no, I mean, think about it. Even if you have a desk job that you're just pushing emails around that you're not proud of, that you don't really enjoy engaging about, well, now you're just sizing the person up, and it's just a dreadfully uncomfortable situation. But all you were doing was just a conversation and make someone feel comfortable. Okay.
Right.
Here's a that seems really innocent, but my wife and I were out. It's a really sad story. My wife and I were out on a double date, getting to know somebody, getting to know another couple, and we're just trying to relate to them. We've got kids, and turns out their daughter died was killed in a car accident from a drunk driver. I'm telling you, we could not recover the night. I mean, there was tears, unrecoverable. So not to mention that if you're on a sales call and you're just trying to find a way to relate, you've got kids, and maybe that person's been going through infertility. I mean, it's fraught with difficulty if you don't know the situation. You're trying to and it make for a comfortable situation. Unless there's toys thrown out throughout the yard and it's super obvious that they're not a daycare, I would just be real careful with that question. Now, certainly this is an easy one. Where are you from? We all say it. We're all curious. We're at parties. We're on sales calls. Where are you from? So I'm going to play a little role play with Amy. Amy, where are you from?
Virginia, I guess.
Okay, Virginia, I guess. Well, okay, what city are you from?
Vienna.
Okay, Vienna. Right. So 2 problems with this already. One, she has to say, how do I answer this question?
Well, it's where I grew up, right? So
yeah, it's where I grew up, right?
Where do I live now? Different.
Yeah, well, see, complications already, right? All I'm trying to do is find a way to connect with Amy. She's a new customer of mine. I'm trying to connect with her. She's got to go, where's this question coming from? 2, then she finally gets to Vienna. And in my mind, okay, I'm trying to connect with her. I've never been to Vienna. Don't know where that is. Don't know anyone from Vienna. And instantly, conversation gets at least not flowing. Okay?
Right.
I'm from
And if
Green Bay.
you're trying to build trust with
Trying to build
a homeowner quickly, really, that's the goal of these questions, right? Asking the
exactly.
right questions helps to quickly build trust. So if they're closed-ended or if they're going to bring up painful memories, that's not your goal. Your goal is to quickly build trust in 2 questions. So yeah.
Exactly. So I'm not saying, where are you from? We're all curious, and that's an easy one to get to. But I got to be honest with you. I've known Amy for a couple years. I've asked her that question 2 or 3 times, and it's never stuck. Why? Because I don't have anything there. Vienna. All right. And that's sad. I'm just being honest, But
That too.
here's the thing.
Yeah.
Let's pretend for a second that I am a roofer in Chicago, because that's where Amy lives now. Okay. So I'm a roofer in Chicago. I'm going on a sales call, going to meet Amy at her house. And so there's an assumption here. 1, she lives in Chicago. 2, I live in Chicago. A much better question to get conversation going. Super safe and super easy, and it's going to lead to a lot of. Amy, how long have you lived in Chicago?
I'm in the witness protection program and I can't talk about it.
All right, come on, help me role play here. How long have you lived in Chicago?
It's 94.
It's 94. Okay, what? Huh. Wait a minute. I moved to Chicago in 95. So now instantly we've got something to relate to. And I can pick out something of, hey, do you remember in 96 this happened, or the great snowstorm of the blah? I just moved there. Maybe I've only been there a year. And I can say, oh, you've been here since 94. You've been here a while. You know what, Amy, I love great restaurants. What's your favorite restaurant that you can guide me to? Because I'm kind of new here still. Instantly we've got a connection because we obviously live in the same place. And 2, I can safely go to other places in the conversation to learn a little bit about her. She can learn a little bit about me, and we can grow our conversation together. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Hey, Jared, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I know we're running on time, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to ask this. Because I know a lot of our contractors do this and have this conversation, is weather a good issue? Like, what is a good icebreaker topic? How long have you lived here? Weather? I hear a lot of people kind of doing that as icebreaker.
Sure. I mean, weather to me, and I understand the point of weather because it's a commonality. You're in the heat right now. I'm standing next to you, and boy, it sure is hot. So but it's pretty weak, and it doesn't get you to understand anything about that person. Okay, so that's me. The icebreaker to me is always, how long have you lived in Chicago? Okay. Wherever you're.
So stick with that. Put that in your back pocket.
That's the fastest, easiest icebreaker for your toolbox. Cool. I tend anyway. So next time your kid is getting off the bus or getting home from school, you're gonna what? You're gonna remember.
How long have you lived in Chicago?
Yeah. Well, you're gonna remember to ask a better question. Next time you're going out, you're going to a party, you're going out to dinner with family, friends, and you want, or you're on a sales call and you're instinctively wanting to ask about their kids. You're going to remember my story about family getting their daughter getting killed with a drunk driver. You're going to remember when you instinctively want to ask, where are you from? You're going to remember the fact that Jared can't even remember a coworker's city, even though he's asked her 3 times. Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to remember this. Why are you going to remember this? I'm going to suggest that people remember things when you've told them a good story. See, it's one thing we can go through PowerPoint slides and man, that deck salesman, remember the deck salesman that came in and started asking me, what do I do for a living? You know what he did? He sat down with his tablet and he went through a 45-minute to an hour-long PowerPoint presentation on why their deck material was so much better. There was nothing, no story to it, nothing that I could relate to. I was already kind of turned off by his initial approach. But a story, real live stories can help your customers, help your trainees relate to what you're trying to talk about, and they're going to remember. So I present all over the country. I talk about this really cool initiative, this pro certification initiative we've got going on. I talk about our qualified trainer conferences that we've got going on, and I get up on stage and I don't even start with, hey, my name is Jared, I'm so happy to be here, and isn't the weather great? I jump right into a story. This is a This is a Taj Mahal that was handmade, crafted. It took over a year and a half, no power tools, and it was given to my dad. It was given to my dad not because he did anything great when he was a member of Congress and met with all these heads of state, but it was given to my dad because he bravely went on an emergency sales call, got up on somebody's roof in the middle of a thunderstorm, and dried in an elderly gentleman who was losing his house to water. After that roof was done, my dad went to get payment. The guy paid my dad, and he said, "Mr. Ribble, come down into the lower level of my home, and I want to show you what I've been working on." And this thing is like 3 feet by 3 feet. It's not small. He said, my wife loves the Taj Mahal, and this was a gift I was making for her to memorialize a trip we took together to go see it. But in the process of me making this Taj Mahal, she died. And I wanted to give it to you to express my gratitude for your bravery getting up in the middle of a storm and coming and saving my house. And maybe you want to give it to your wife because it's actually a jewelry box. And it's a really cool story, and it's a way that I kick off a lot of my presentations because, one, it's something that you guys can relate to because you all have been on emergency calls. You know what it's like to get a call in the middle of the night and have to brave the elements to get up onto a roof and drive somebody in. So you can relate to that, but it's personal to me. Okay, what a great story. It's personal. My kid getting off the bus, the double date that my wife and I went on, the personal story of being a drummer, and a personal story of this was given to my dad. This is really cool.
Right.
But a story also has to be relatable. We can't go off on tangents. We can't just say 5 minutes of random stuff that doesn't relate to the audience. Okay. Some emotion is helpful. Adding an element of surprise does you some good. If you're bent towards some humor, that's always helpful. I'm not an overly funny guy, but sometimes humor is helpful, and inspirational, inspiring someone to action. You're going to remember, people are going to remember the stories you tell. And drive home any point you're giving with a trainee, and it's going to help drive any points home that you're trying to deliver on a sales call.
Yeah.
All right. So that sort of wraps up our points. I know we're starting to run a little bit low on time, or we're just about out of time. Briefly, I want to just give a quick little plug. Amy and I have developed what's called the Qualified Trainer Conference. Our dream is to be able to have every one of your companies raise up someone within your company to be a qualified trainer, someone who has excellent training skills. So that way when a new hire comes in, you've worked so hard to hire somebody and to attract someone into your company that you can pair this new hire up with a qualified trainer right inside your company to help engage that new hire right away, to get them productive right away. We know studies have shown that when a new hire engages quickly and becomes productive quickly, they will stick around and you'll be able to retain them. Yeah. So a qualified trainer right inside your company will help retain the workers that you're working so hard to get and attract. So trainer conference, it's a train the trainer conference. Raise up someone within your company to be an excellent trainer. Yeah. We've got these coming all over the country. We've got Dallas, we've got Denver, we've got Central Ohio, Charlotte. We've got a bunch more coming. You see my
and just to piggyback on that, Jared, we did add a line in the webinar so that when you fill out the webinar survey, give us your feedback. But if you're interested in learning more about the Qualified Training Conference, you can jump in there and access it there. And then we'll make
Awesome.
this webinar available on Asphalt Life as well, so that you guys can follow up and check out more resources from Jared and Amy and NRCA.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, and Tiara, I want to mention, if they go to that link and they're looking at the cities that we're coming to for the Qualified Trainer Conference, I would say if we're not coming to a city near you, email me about it.
Yeah.
Email me and say,
Cool.
hey, when are you coming to Houston, or when are you coming to Atlanta, or what have you? Because I've got
Great.
a lot of cities that we're in the process of booking right now, that just may not even be on the website just yet, or
Yeah.
it might not be in the process and we realize we need to go there. So do email me if you want the Qualified Trainer Conference to come near you, and we'll do what we can to get there. Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much, Amy and Jared, for the time. I think, this is a wealth of knowledge on honing in on some presentation skills that we wouldn't have noticed, and really appreciate the time and work you guys are putting into this webinar. So thank you guys so much.
You got it. Thanks for having us.
Thanks everybody for being on the
All right.
webinar.
And to our Asphalt Life community, thanks, and we'll see you guys. This is August's webinar, so we'll see you in September. Stay online and keep checking out upcoming webinars, and don't forget, live, roof, play together. Have a great day.